Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 104 of the Lift Free and Diet Hard podcast, part of my renewed effort with it. And I'm Andrew Coates. I'm your longtime host, and I appreciate you guys tuning in. I get to welcome back my good friend, Ben Mudge. It's always kind of funny, calling people good friends, even though you haven't yet had a chance to meet them in person, but yet that's kind of how our industry is. And Ben, of course, is a very successful coach based in Belfast, Northern Ireland. He's known for many things, primarily his battle with cystic fibrosis. We'll talk about that, for being someone who has gained mainstream media attention for kind of being a little bit of a Thor lookalike and other stuff. But you really made, you've become a really great ambassador for fitness, especially, in the realm of cystic fibrosis. And we're definitely going to talk about your business, your project with your friend Josh Taylor, Be More Headquarters. We'll get to that in a second. But I did want to start having a little bit of fun with you, just for how people who aren't from Canada don't understand just the sheer breadth of Canada. So Ben is, I would think it was last year you were traveling to Canada and you asked me, hey, I would love to meet up. And you said you were in Toronto, which is like 3 massive provinces over from where I am in Alberta. That's basically like a 4-hour flight, right? So unfortunately, we couldn't make it work, but obviously we will at some point. It'd be really cool to get some of our friends from across the pond to some of the events that we're doing here. But either way, my friend, it's great to have you back. And let's start with how you've been doing, how you've been feeling.
Firstly, thank you for having me back. 104 episodes. That's no mean feat. So well done on that. Thank you for having me back just to chat. As we were talking before we even started recording this, we have always so much to catch up on, just being very like-minded in our approaches and just our general outlook on life, and that's always nice to find, regardless of whether it's in the fitness in life. That's just nice to find. But I've been good. I've been busy. Well, okay, I'll put it like this: I've been good, I've been bad, I've been happy, and I've been sad. And I think that's a very important way to answer that question, because a lot of people just say, oh, I'm good, and they kind of brush past it. But realistically, that's not being human. I've had all the normal spectrum of emotions over the last, whatever amount of time that we've spoken in, and that's just me being honest. It's been, for the most part though, it's been fantastic. I've been having a great time.
And I think, if anybody listening does not yet follow your social media, I will strongly encourage them to. I say this with every guest, but I mean, I really have to push this, because I say it at the end. I'm gonna say it at the beginning here, because that makes you very endearing, and that endearing, charismatic, down to earth, easygoing nature, despite your physique, really shines through with media, that the way you go about it. And it's why you become very, very popular in our world. So I'm glad it's been primarily good. Hey, just as we talked off air, things have been primarily overwhelmingly good with me, with issues. My poor cat, I had to have him into the vet yesterday.
Okay.
Seems like he's okay. He's got a bladder infection. Everybody's like thrilled to hear about this, but it meant he's been peeing places he doesn't want to, which of course is really stressful. So thankfully, I've got a really great person in my life. She's a vet, and she took care of him personally. So it looks like he'll be okay. He's 11 years old. He has to change his diet a little bit, and change a few things around the house for him, and I'm hoping it'll all be good. And then we're always dealing with crap. Despite the good things, we're always dealing with crap in our world, and we're not always great at showing some of the darker side. But then it's hard, because we don't want to go, oh, hey, pity me. Exactly, right? We don't want that, because we're about positive energy. So let's start with here. I really do like trying to pick apart and see what you and Josh are doing with Be More HQ. So I know a lot of us, we do love working with our one-on-one clients. I'll do it forever. And I never want to stop doing that. But I'm more and more interested in having conversations with, and peeking behind the curtain and understanding my friends and contacts in the industry who've been, scaling businesses, particularly, group online type stuff. I'm going to, hopefully the scheduling works out, I can bring Kelsey and Dennis Heenan on the podcast. I recently had Don Saladino, who's done massive things with his business. And there are many other examples. So I kind of wanted to see, how this came to be, why you chose Josh, and why you and Josh decided to start the program, and how you guys approached building it while retaining a quality experience for the clients?
Okay, lot to unpack. So I will give you kind of some cliff notes of how it started. So Josh and I have known each other through the fitness industry, much like yourself and I. Just exchange pleasantries, over social media, me appreciating his work, him appreciating mine. But it wasn't until I started taking my new medication, Calf Trio, for my cystic fibrosis last year. Actually, it's been a year I've been on it, which is mad. But I put up a video about just me expressing how it felt to feel like I was breathing for the first time in my life properly, which was, even now thinking about it, still makes me shake a little bit, just thinking I was not doing something that I thought was right my entire life, which is breathing, which sounds so weird to even say. And anyway, Josh messaged me just saying how happy he was for me, just really just being a genuinely nice person, just being like, I'm so glad. This has nothing, no effect on him. He's just happy to see me, someone who he likes and appreciates and respects, getting something they never thought they would get. And I was like, that's such a nice thing to do. Like, I appreciate anyone, anytime anyone takes time out of their day to message me something of, anything, like if it's a positive comment or whatever, sharing my posts, like yourself, sharing some of my posts. I really appreciate that. And it got me to thinking. I was like, I've been doing coaching for 12 years. I'll be going into my 13th year of coaching. It's a very lonely path for a coach, especially online. Like, again, when you're in person, which I haven't done for 7 years now. I think that was the last time I was one-to-one coaching. I loved one-to-one coaching, but with my cystic fibrosis, I needed to be a little bit more thoughtful in my approach to how I was going to run my business. And that's where online came in for me, which is where I met John Goodman, absolute legend of a human. But yeah, so I hadn't coached one-to-one in a long time, which then meant that you were by default by yourself. And I know my strengths, I know my weaknesses. I'm not one of these people who's just like, I'm the greatest at everything ever. I don't need any help. I'm not one of those people. If I feel like I need help with something, it's in my best interest to go out and seek that help. So I looked at this and I was like, I'm getting kind of lonely by myself. I know I'm capable of much more, but how am I going to unlock that? How am I going to hold myself accountable to getting to that level? And I was like, I need someone else in here. I need someone who's going to challenge me, who I can teach some stuff to, who can teach me some stuff. And Josh was one of those people. I've seen his work, I've seen his personality, and I just thought, you know what, it's worth reaching out to him. And we did. We had a conversation, and it just snowballed from there. And then it was in January. So obviously started taking my medication November. January, Josh flew over, and we discussed the business side of right, how is this going to work? How are we going to work together? What are you going to bring? What am I going to bring? How do we make sure that this is the best of both worlds for our clients? And that's kind of how it all snowballed from there. But the main thing that we did from the very start was establish how important communication was to this existing, because I've seen people working together. Most coaches will be like, not a great idea to work with someone else because egos get involved and miscommunication. But from the very start, we both just said, look, this is going to survive exclusively on our ability to communicate with each other. If something feels off, even by 1%, bring it up. We can sort it together and we can move forward, because ultimately, at the end of the day, we both saw the benefits of working alone, but then we also saw the benefits of working together. And the phrase I use for this is, when you're working with someone who is so aligned with what you want to achieve, the problems are halved, but the victories are doubled. So every time I get a victory, Josh gets a victory. Every time Josh gets a victory, I get a victory. When one of our clients gets a victory with one of our coaches, it's a victory. If there's a problem that comes in, we both get to tackle it. So it's been honestly the best decision I've ever made from a business standpoint, hands down. And it's been fantastic for our clients as well, which is always fantastic to hear.
And I think the big thing there is, we have a guest.
Johnson, yeah, it's getting Ollie. He was sleeping.
The dog, cool. I was watching my cat go by. More like, I, for a very long time, never imagined doing anything outside of just, hey, one-on-one. And part of these conversations are really to get coaches to kind of not get too rooted in their pre-existing beliefs or ideas about how we're supposed to do this stuff. And while a lot of people will preach scale, 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 and they're just trying to preach and quite frankly sell business systems, and I'm very leery of that. I think the people that we know and respect, Jonathan Goodman, is less about, hey, you have to do it my way. Here's a bunch of tactics and trickery. And it's more about mindset, attitude, and being open-minded about what kind of possibilities that are out there, because we have a lot of peers who do a lot of different things. And something similar where I have this, and it's a very small side piece of everything I do, but I'm enjoying it, called Forever Strength. And my partner, Bailey, she was a client of mine first, herself a coach. She wanted to come and have basically an experienced mentor and, in her eyes, a very high level coach to work on her own fitness goals. And so she actually brought her personal training business over to the facility that I contract out of. And that's still her own thing. But along the way, and seeing other people doing these group online programs, I just brought up the idea. She really loved it. And she's great at a whole bunch of skills that I'm not, which is sort of I don't want to use the term administration because it almost sounds like it's diminishing her role, but being on top of all the email systems and some of the execution of the technical systems. And quite frankly, I use it as a place to kind of defer to her on, we build the programs together, the philosophies of them, but she actually does execute a lot of the more technical aspects. We do the Facebook group thing. A lot of people do that, but it works. And we've created a community, and we're actually really happy with the first year. And I mean, this number may sound humble to some people's systems, but as just a side project to both of our busy in-person businesses, I mean, our revenue from year one of doing it as a very casual side project was $20,000. So we're thinking, okay, cool. We can now invest in this, scale this. We see bigger potential. And then spending time and talking with people like Don, like Kelsey, like you, it's like, okay, how do we break this open? Because there's a lot of value in these pieces of infrastructure. And this is what I want trainers to understand. You hear it a lot. Your email marketing systems, your websites, the programs that you build, et cetera, these communities, these are pieces of infrastructure. And one of the things that I assumed was relevant, and you've alluded to it, but I'd love to hear more about it, is the fact that, yeah, with cystic fibrosis, despite this great medication, I assume that there was probably a role cystic fibrosis played in whether or not you, for your long-term plans and how sustainable the one-on-one model would be. So I don't know if you want to elaborate on that.
Yes, I mean, cystic fibrosis it's been a big contributor to a lot of the decisions I've made in my life, for better and for worse, obviously. It's not always been a positive influence on my decisions, but for the most part, it's guided me in the way that I think I need to live my life. I see what other people do and I'm like, cool, that's them. What about me? Well, what do I need to do to take care of myself, to prioritize the things that I need to prioritize? And for me, my health is my number one priority, without a doubt. That's my mum drilled that in me from such a young age, that you need to look after yourself first. It's not selfish. The way she looked at it and the way she explained it to me was, if you're not healthy, you won't be able to do the things you love to do, which means that you're not going to be a happy person. If you're not a happy person, the people you want to spend your time with are not going to want to spend the time with you. So, make sure that you're prioritizing your health for a plethora of reasons, but realistically, you don't want to be a drag to the people around you. You don't want to be that depressing person that everyone's like, oh, God, they're here now. They're just such an energy vampire, I call them. Those people just take energy from you and don't give you anything in return. So the decision to go from one-to-one coaching to online was one of those decisions that it was barely even a decision. I wouldn't even say it was that. It was just, this is what I have to do, because if I get sick, I'm in hospital for a month. My mortgage doesn't care about that. My mortgage is like, pay me or don't. There's no, we don't care if you've got cystic fibrosis. There's, that's just life. So I just thought, right, okay, what can I do that's going to ensure that I'm not stressed out of my mind getting sick? And again, as you know, stress is kind of a key player in how often you get sick. So it kind of just came from that. So yeah, it definitely has an effect on my decisions, but when it doesn't need to, I don't let it. It's as simple as that.
No, and that's I mean, I don't know what to add to that. I just simply think that's an important thing for people to look at. And even for those of us who don't have what I'll consider, call a significant health concern, it doesn't mean that one can't materialize as we get older. It doesn't mean that accidents don't happen, or there could be some fairly substantial change in your situation. I am passionate about, I don't do business coaching. I literally mentor a small handful of trainers who message me. I don't promote it at all. I'm just not interested in growing that side of things. I don't want to scale that, but I like having those conversations. What I do with my media, whether it's here, social media, writing, is I like sharing the experience, presentations for sure, sharing experience that helps other coaches break boundaries, be successful. And so that way we can all stay within an industry that we love for the long run, instead of being worried about, well, am I going to have enough clients to be able to pay my mortgage next month? Do I need to go and get a job? And jobs like paramedic, honorable, like they don't get anywhere near enough care and credit. I work with a lot of them, and I know a lot of trainers have bounced over in that world. However, I think a lot of trainers would probably rather work with people and coach people. So I would really like to give them the tools, whether it's the business sense, whether it's the mindset, whether it's the technical skills with their clients, so that way they get to stay in our world. Because one more caring person who's good at their job, who stays in our world, cascades across this battle that we're fighting, not with each other over methodology and ideology, but with all of the other things that deter people from being physically active, which we know is a great challenge. Let's pivot over to something else that has also been a mindset shift for me. You prominently feature the brand Ghost Lifestyle in your media, right? You literally have one in your hand there. And so this is all about navigating brand ambassadorships. Now, first of all, Ghost is a legitimate, big supplement company, lifestyle company. And we know that coaches, you have all these bullshit emails of people that don't know anything about you, this clothing company, this nothing, whatever. And that stuff we can dismiss outright. And we also have a tricky relationship with supplement companies, right?
Yeah.
So and I can say, well, shit, I write for T Nation. I brought you into T Nation. We did at least one article together. We need to do more. Life's been busy. Yeah. And T Nation itself is a supplement company. I have written for Muscle and Fitness Magazine and other big publications in that realm. They're not necessarily supplement companies, but they're mainstream fitness companies.
Yep.
Right. So do you want to talk about why you agreed to work with Ghost, what you see as the positives, how something like this could be really beneficial to other coaches, any aspect of it, so that we can kind of break this. We have all these hangups of ethics that we're, not supposed to do this, not supposed to do this.
Yeah.
It's seeing you do this, and it's seeing my friend Don Saladino has had a lot of brand ambassadorships over the years, very credible ones. And it's changing my mindset about my willingness to maybe do it someday. So the floor is yours.
Brilliant. So whenever I started in the fitness industry, 12 years ago, the big thing was like getting sponsored by a company. Regardless of how big they were, that was the thing. And then once you got it, you were like, this is kind of shit. Like, they don't pay you. They just make you're essentially a glorified sales rep.
Yep.
That's what you are. There's no dancing around that. So for me, and for me, like personally, supplements are one of the very last things that I will talk to a client about, unless it really needs to be talked about. It's the very last rung on the ladder, essentially. Because as you know, anyone who's worth their salt as a coach understands that supplements are such a small percentage of the results that we get. It's barely even worth talking about them. Barely. Some of them obviously a little bit more important than others, but realistically, not that huge of importance. So for me, I actually stepped away from working with supplement industry or supplement brands for a while, because I was like, I don't want to feel like I'm pushing things down people's throats. I don't want to be encouraging people to make the decisions that they maybe should be making decisions elsewhere. I don't want them wasting their money thinking that this is some magic formula, because that's what supplements want you to believe. They're marketing companies. They are at the end of the day trying to make money.
Mm-hmm.
That is it. And once you realize that, you're like, huh, okay. So they're going to say anything to sell whatever they've got to you. So I was very wary of that. And I was like, I had a couple of supplement companies that came to me and were like, oh, we'd like to do work with you. And I was like, nah, I'm all right. Thank you. I appreciate it, but thanks. I'm good. But then Ghost came along, and it was when I was working with bodybuilding.com.
Mm-hmm.
The guy who owns Ghost was there hanging out with us because it was a lot of Americans were with us at that time. It was at the Body Power. Sorry, that's the Northern Irish accent. Expo in the UK. So there wasn't a massive amount of Americans there. So he was hanging out with us. And I saw the concept of this business he was making. At this point, I don't think he had even created it, but he was like showing people designs. And I was like, that's cool. Like, that's a really unique way of looking at the industry. It's not, pigeonholing itself as this like bodybuilder. It's looking at things from just a really unique and interesting way of looking at it. And I was like, that's cool. I can get behind that, like that concept. Fast forward 4 or 5 years, a friend of mine just said, look, I'm working with this company. I'm kind of their UK link. Is it something you'd be interested in? And I was like, let me see the products, let me try them. And if I like them, then yeah, cool. I'm on it. But I did say to him, look, and I said this on shoots. I went over and did a couple of shoots with them, and it was like a fat burning, I'm air quoting here, fat burning products and BCAAs. And I said to them, I don't want to be photographed with these products, please. Because I don't believe they're really worth anything. Again, that was me being honest. And they were like, cool, that's fine. I was like, I'll take photos with creatine. I'll take photos with protein tubs, some energy drinks. That's fine, like the equivalent of Monster. But I don't want to be promoting something that I genuinely don't believe in, because I will never be able to promote it in an honest way. Simple as that. So my relationship with Ghost is a fantastic one. They have a really good relationship with me. They've just said, look, wear the clothing, tag us. If people want to get discount in their supplements, go to them. And honestly, the reason why I decided to sign with them is I don't need supplements. The supplements I need are not that expensive. I know where to go to get them. That's it. But getting them sent to me for free, that's kind of nice. Awesome. But also I thought, what, if this is something I can give to my clients and people who support me, if I can give them a little bit of money off, cool. Like, and at least I know that the products they're getting are good quality stuff. Like it's good quality stuff. It's cool. They're an exciting brand to work with. They have so many like different directions they go with. That was honestly why I started working with them. I was like, how could the people who follow me, who support me, I want to give them something in return, even if that is just 20% off. Like, cool, that's a nice thing. But at the end of the day, it comes down to, you have to go into, if you're speaking from your experience of kind of being reluctant to it, and I, again, completely understand that, you have to go into it knowing, okay, what am I getting out of this? What am I able to give to this company, and how can that be mutually beneficial? If it's not, you just don't do it. Simple as that. And if you don't believe in things, you say it. Like, again, every time I promote any supplements, I will nearly always say in the caption or whatever I'm talking about, you do not need these. However, just like any tool, there's a right time to use them and a wrong time to use them. Knowing when to use that tool is what I'm trying to teach you. And that's basically my approach to it.
And that is a perfect explanation. I think everybody kind of listening can get behind that. And just the way you nuance it, it gives me even more insight, because I had a brand, wasn't a supplement company, messaged me last night, and they have worked with someone before who I trust, who's credible. And normally I just tell these people, good luck. I'm nice, like, hey, good luck. Sorry, this isn't something I'm interested in. So I said, okay, you can email me. And so we'll see. We'll take a look. And what they seem to be behind is something that I think is probably actually kind of credible. We'll see. For me, it's either going to have to be, it has to be two things. One, it has to be something that's already noteworthy. Like I know the brand Ghost, so it's a legitimate mainstream
Credible
company, right? That's it. And two, it's got to have to be something like, quote, protein powder, creatine, or some other product that you can say, listen, this is totally legitimate.
Right? Legit. Yeah.
So that nails that one. All right. So let's go back around, because I think we talked about this the first part, but I wanted to get a little bit more in depth on what is your long-term vision for your career with what you're doing with Be More headquarters. And here's another good question to us. Is there anyone you actually have looked up to say, I like the way they're doing things. This person is somewhat of a role model to me?
Yeah, I mean, I obviously have some. If you'd asked me this question 2 years ago, I was just like, I'm happy to just continue doing what I'm doing. And that's exactly why I thought, you know what, I want to shift things up again. Like I wanted to introduce something that would inspire me and keep me driving forward, because I'm an ambitious person. I've grown up my entire life fully expecting to not be around for the same time period as everyone else. With my cystic fibrosis, my life expectancy was it was there. It was always present. And to give people an idea, it was 45. When I was born in 1990, it was 20 years old. You would have been lucky to get to 20 years old. So that's always been silently, sometimes not so silently, in the background of a lot of my decisions and just the way I approach life. With this new medication, things have changed to a certain degree, but it's still always there. So I knew I needed to do something to shake myself up. So deciding to work with Josh was like that thing that really pushed me. And now with that kind of different approach, now my answer to this question of where do I want to be and where do I want to see my career going is now completely changed. And that's the most exciting thing about life. Like suddenly just you think, okay, I'm happy with this. And then something, a conversation, a piece of text in a book, it just suddenly can just change in an instant. And then suddenly your entire trajectory in life is just changed. And that's exciting. That's to me, that's being alive. That's fun. So now, I mean, honestly, what Josh and I have been building, I am immensely proud of. I am immensely proud of what we are putting together. And it is just the start. We haven't even been in business for a full year. And we already cracked, like, I mean, we set ourselves a very lofty goal at the start of the year of what we would want to be taking from a financial standpoint. Because again, you know, as much as we love talking about clients and all that stuff, at the end of the day, we have to pay bills. You have to have some form of like measurable goal when it comes to finances, because otherwise you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot. But primarily our care for this industry, and this is the thing that you can see so clearly, we genuinely care about the people we work with. We genuinely want to see them win. I say this to my clients all the damn time. Them winning is me winning. As soon as you work with me, your victories are my victories. My victories are your victories. Like it's a team. It's a teamwork, you know, and communication is the key of there. But we set this company up, and honestly, the stuff we've got planned just excites me even more. We're launching our podcast again. Like we've completely, just like yourself, took a break from podcasting to really allow ourselves to it's like taking a break from training. When you force yourself to take that break, your enthusiasm towards it gets bigger and bigger. So now we've got this really cool concept for a podcast that I'm really happy, really excited about. So in terms of where I see myself in a couple of years, there's a lot of stuff that I'm excited about. Yeah, I want to be known for, you know, what you said at the start, you know, someone who is relatable, someone who understands what people go through. That I'm trying to really get away from this idea that I'm this perfect individual, that I do everything correctly and I'm happy all the time, because that's the way people do view me. And I'm painfully aware of that. The people look at me on first glance, it's the separation between the person I'm trying to help and me. And I want to eliminate that bridge as best I can, or bring that bridge as tight as possible, because I'm trying to help people, and if they feel like I'm not even relatable to them, then I'm not gonna be able to help them. They're not going to be able to have this conversation that needs to happen in order then for them to kind of push forward with whatever they're trying to achieve. I hope that answered your question.
Oh, it more than does.
I think
it opens up stuff. I think for sure, you know, there's a lot of people that I've kind of come up through the industry and followed and watched, and you know, some of them seem larger than life and indomitable and infallible, and you get to know them personally, and many have become my friends, and you start to realize no, they're actually not, and some tragically so, but it makes people usually much more endearing. And then again, social media, we rehash this all the time. It shows such a limited piece of what all of our
Tip of the
lives are
iceberg.
like, and
Yep.
people, who knows what kind of assumptions they make about me. One of the things I can continue consistently hear over the years, usually people who see me in person but haven't interacted with me, is that I'm scary, I'm intimidating. I mean, I'm a big guy. I'm a very large human. And at the same time, anybody who also knows me knows my true nature. And it goes to little things like I chose a very innocuous, uh, non-intimidating social media profile photo that I go with. One that sort of disguises the sheer size of my physique, for example, right? And I think most longtime listeners have heard me say I'm 6'2", and I walk around really fluctuating around 255 pounds. And I'm a reasonably lean person. You're a little bit leaner than I am, but I'm a reasonably lean person.
A little
So
bit shorter. So,
fair. And
it works out. It's all fair. It's all fair here.
in embracing leaning into social media and the scale that has happened, which I couldn't have anticipated, but now I accept and understand, I wanted to be more broadly appealing versus very niched in our industry. And we have people who are serving the technical niches of muscle hypertrophy. Okay, great. I'm actually more interested in broader reach, and my following, oddly enough, at least when it comes to Instagram, is 61% women, which that wasn't something I initially imagined or sought out, but I embrace it, which is super cool. So therefore, some of the more hyper masculine type stuff, the bro bodybuilding type stuff, won't necessarily play on social media. But so, hey, I've been part of that world for a long time, and it doesn't necessarily resonate with me. I've got friends who are into bodybuilding competition. But yeah, like I just like working out. Hey, I like being strong and big myself, but more and more it's become about feeling good, staying healthier as I get older. I'm 44 now. I'm not a kid anymore. So literally I'm at that threshold where you mentioned earlier, right? But for me, yeah, it's been actually a little bit deliberate to let less of the big heavy stuff and, oh, here's my videos of like my latest power lifts or whatever. I don't compete in any of these things on my media, and I would actually really just rather make it about other people, make it about my client Larry, for example, etc.
Love that dude. Love that
Larry's
dude.
good stuff. Yeah. And he wasn't well recently, so I get him back probably next week, and he should be feeling a lot better. So we'll share kind of what's going on there in future. It's been really good to get insight into what's going on with you. And I mean, we got a little more time, so we were talking off air about geek culture, and we were showing each other like video of like my Dungeons and Dragon collections, my Witcher,
my Warhammer,
your Warhammer.
I mean, I've got Thor's hammer right here. I've got the Infinity Gauntlet in the corner. I've got a lightsaber in the corner. I've got my football helmet. That's not geeky apparently, but depends how much you're into football and all the stats and stuff, because there's some geeky people attached for that, especially fantasy football players.
That's right. I was big into fantasy baseball and hockey 20 years ago. It became obsessive to the point where I refuse to actually do any of those things anymore. But the geek culture stuff is kind of cool because more and more it's become socially acceptable in our industry.
Yeah.
One of my best friends, one of the things that we've bonded over the years is the fact that she really loves geek culture type stuff. And, she never felt good about having it kind of a thing, even within her longtime relationship, because her partner isn't into these things. And it's one of the things that I need to almost make it more prominent on my media, because I love Witcher. I'm back to playing Witcher 3 again for its 4th playthrough. And I don't know, like, I never understood this about my dad, but dad is always, and is for a long time, but probably, maybe since, my age, he's more interested in watching old movies he likes and listening to the old music that he loves versus always discovering the newest thing, right? And then not entirely, but a lot. And now with my limited time, I just can't keep up with the new TV shows. I will now only I'll watch the next season of Mandalorian. I'll watch Witcher. And yes, there's a whole thing about Cavill leaving. And I realize, and I think we all now believe that he just grew probably frustrated with the direction of the show, the way that writers want to do it, how they're twisting it. And they have such great source material, but they're doing all these other sort of weird things. Grateful to have 3 seasons of him. I think he's great. And, in all fairness to Liam Hemsworth, he I'm going to give him a chance, but he just doesn't seem the part. And it's like someone, it would be as if Hugh Jackman, after 3 Wolverine movies, X-Men movies, set it down and someone had cast Jared Leto or some other actor as Wolverine. It would, like, let's say they recast Iron Man partway through. It's like, it's one thing to do War Machine after one movie. Okay, minor character, Don Cheadle was fine, he owned it. But you have changed. I don't think we actually have a comparable reference point of a truly iconic actor, the central recast, because they chose not to recast Chadwick Boseman as Black Panther. Right?
Yep.
And yes, we have Richard Harris dying as Dumbledore, replaced by Michael Gambon. But again, that
one film, wasn't it?
Yeah,
there's one film. Then was
that
one film, and
we get stuff like Terrence Howard for Don Cheadle as at that point a very side character that emerged into a bit more. And sure, the Mountain. You literally, we talk, guys, go back to Ben's episode. He's been on before and talks about his origin, how he was literally on set of season one, at least season one of Game of Thrones, filmed in Northern Ireland. And but the Mountain character had been recast twice, which
three times in total. Three
different actors, and ended up being Hafthor Bjornsson by the end of it all. But again, you barely ever saw his face, and they're all huge, so he's more of a physical specimen. I don't think we actually have, outside of like Becky from Roseanne, if anybody gets that reference, or actually the big one is Aunt Viv in
Fresh Prince
of Bel-Air, and you felt that one. And again, it's still not the main character. It's like recasting Will Smith. So
it's going to be interesting. I always think that, like you said, you have to give him a chance. Like, the studio don't just make random knee-jerk decisions. This is something that's been, by the time it comes out to public, it's been talked about for potentially 6 months to a year before it ever gets out to public. Because again, I'm a huge film TV geek, obviously, with my background, but I know way more about films and TV than anyone really needs to know. So when something like that gets out, like even Spider-Man being in like anything with Marvel, I would love to have been a fly on the wall to see how those negotiations went down. That's two completely different companies. Whilst everyone goes, oh, Spider-Man's in Marvel. That's like Pepsi and Coke combining. That is how, like, monument, like Spider-Man was bought by Sony off Marvel in the 90s, because Marvel was literally at a point where they were selling filing cabinets to survive. Like that. I mean, it was literally, do we need this filing cabinet? No, we need to sell that. Otherwise Marvel's going to close.
Well, it's like, there's so many examples of this, and I'll circle back to my original point, but I love Dungeons and Dragons, grew up on it. And the old company TSR, I mean, they were struggling, not nearly went out of business, and they were bought up by Wizards of the Coast, who are the Magic the Gathering people. And now that brand is like popular and big again. So it's funny to look at how these like monstrous, iconic brands are now huge. And my original point that I didn't want to miss was, I find, like my dad, I'm much more interested in revisiting what I would call old friends in terms of the characters and the stories. Nostalgia. I would rather rewatch the Fast and Furious movies because I love the franchise. I would rather go back and play Witcher 3. I did play Cyberpunk. It was actually pretty awesome. Versus try to watch every new TV series. So I'll do The Mandalorian. I'll do Witcher. I have not watched Rings of Power or the new Game of Thrones. I just am not willing to get invested in them. And there's just so much. I was very disappointed with Wheel of Time. I thought it was crap. And again, they deviated too far from the books. And there's a whole bunch of stuff that is common. I don't want to get into some of these things and the criticisms of them, but sometimes I think they try too hard with these things. And Wheel of Time was a massive disappointment. And I really liked the books. But it all boils down to this stuff, especially for coaches. Like, if you love this stuff, you'd be shocked. Half my clients, I got a whole bunch of tech guys over the years, and we talk about World of Warcraft. I used to fucking live within World of Warcraft before my career, long time ago. Love that stuff. And I get to vicariously relive all of the old experiences with it as they're telling me about playing through Classic and Burning Crusade again. And it's great, but it's a great tool to take a population that on average doesn't tend to love working out, didn't grow up with sports, and make the relationship something that they really want to keep coming back to, which helps keep them in shape. And these are great relationships. I really enjoy them. And it's also about our enjoyment. If we can find people, if this is on our media and people connect with it, because someone comes to me and is like, hey, I like this and this and this, but like what really sold me is the fact that you're a Witcher fan, and we get to jam on that stuff, to pull the long hours that we sometimes do. There's two elements. There's our physical stamina and capacity to do it, but what bleeds into it is our mental, emotional experience with it. Is it that client that really stresses you out that you dread? Or is the person that, hell, I got to work, shit, I've got a 10-hour day, but man, that last client, the last few clients are people I just love spending time with because they're fun to be around. And it completely changes your career. And doing it, like I'm just 12 years in, so I'm on my 13th year, just like you, same timetable. And we've been with enough people to know what works for us and what doesn't. And I feel it's very important to build media and put yourself in a position where the right people self-select to you. But if you need to, you can politely and professionally say no to someone that isn't a good fit for you or for them.
Yeah, I mean, I have so much fun working with clients who share the same hobbies and interests as me. Like I've been into Warhammer for 20 years, over 20 years. And just like you were talking about, like there is this sense of like, it's definitely become a lot more socially acceptable, which is such a sad thing to really think about when you really do think about it. Like, these things that we are so passionate about and we love and we take so much pride and enjoyment of, to think that someone's decided that's not a cool thing to like. That's heartbreaking when you really sit back and think about it. Like, who the hell decided that rugby, soccer, American football, it's acceptable to like those things, but it's not acceptable right now to like this type of stuff? And that it really makes me sad. So now I've just gotten to the point where if I paint something that I'm really, really proud of, I'm be like, this is cool, I like this. If people don't like it, cool. That's fuck them. Like, frankly, like that's not my deal. Like, if you're not here for me, like, then that's fine. There's plenty of other people out there who you can go and get your information from, or if you don't like me, that's not my problem. So I mean, I agree with you as well. Like, just having those clients, just you got people who give you energy and people who take energy from you. And you just, at this point of our careers, I'm very fortunate in the fact that every single person I work with gives me energy. When I speak to them, they give me energy. And yeah, so it is, I've had to do this. I run a program that it's not a everybody's welcome type program. It is, but it's not going to be a good fit for everyone. That's a better way of putting it. And if someone isn't going to be a good fit for, whatever number of reasons it is, it sucks, because at the end of the day, I think you'll agree with me in this, that you want to help as many people as possible. That's why we're in this career. But you have to also understand that there's some people who are just beyond your help. And knowing when that is the case is, I think, so criminally not paid attention to by a lot of coaches. People are like, oh, well, I'll take you on. You're like, oh, you got this illness? And again, this is the thing I had. Because of my cystic fibrosis, a lot of people who have similar illnesses or go, oh, he knows what I'm dealing with this X, illness. They'll come to me and say, look, I've got this, you've got this, can you help me? And if I don't know enough about this illness or this condition or whatever it is, I'm just going to say, look, I appreciate you reaching out, but I don't know enough about this to give you my full confidence. And if I'm not going to be able to do that, this is a relationship, a communication, that this is just not going to work. That's a difficult thing to do. Saying no to people when they are coming to you for help is a very difficult thing. And it's something that really matured me as a coach. Just being able to say, look, I would love to help you, but I just don't, it's not in my wheelhouse. It's not something that for instance, a bodybuilder, if a bodybuilder came to me or someone was trying to get ready for prep, I have turned them away, because I have no interest in getting someone to that level, because I've been through it myself. It's not something that is realistically achievable for most people. And even if it is, what is it going to take from them? Because most people, when they are like, oh, I would do this for, to get X body fat percent, I would do this, this, and this. And I was like, okay, cool. But are you willing to give up drinking at all? Are you willing to give up your social time? Are you willing to give up the ability to go out for a random meal? Are you going to give up your time? There's so many things. People always look at, I'll do this and I'll do this and I'll do this. But then when you flip it around, you're like, okay, but are you willing to not do this, 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 and this? And as soon as it starts taking away, if it's not leading to a better life for you, I don't want to even get you going down that road. It's as simple as that. If it's not going to bring, and it's the quote that you actually reposted of mine, is like, I think it was fitness should enrich your life, not dominate it. Something
Well, let's actually pull it out.
Double check that, but that is one I have said in the past. Like, if your fitness endeavors and your time that you're putting into your fitness is not just enabling you to enjoy your life to a fuller degree, then maybe have a look at what you're doing.
Let's find it. The quote is, there is a lot more to life than fitness. However, there is a lot more life with fitness.
Boom.
And that one, just to give you an idea, let's look at the metrics on this, just give people an idea.
Oh, yeah,
600 likes, 78 comments, 1,210 shares, 550 saves, 180,000 accounts reached. That one did well.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate that.
I love that. I like sharing other people's stuff. I like sharing my friends' stuff. If people say really smart things, and quite frankly, sometimes I just haven't written something for that day, and I'm like, okay, I need to post something really good. Hey, my friend did this. I could A, share it, tag them, drive some followers to that person. B, it's much easier than writing my own content every single day. I mean, I've been getting ready for all these speaking engagements. I've got 2 podcasts to run, a group, my online coaching business, my in-person stuff, try to work out myself, write for the different publications I'm writing for, and at the same time, manage, social media the way I do. So I've gotten better at being efficient with it. And quite frankly, a lot of that is, okay, I had this popular post I shared 6 months ago. I'm going to use that again. People love it because 6 months ago, let's just give you an idea. I'm at like 85,000 followers. January 1st of this year, I was at 35,000. It's grown a lot. It continues to grow.
I remember. Yeah.
The year before that, I had just hit 10,000, right? 10,500 previous year. So A, the algorithm doesn't show everybody everything. 2, the people who loved it the first time literally will tell me they'll share it again. They love this one. They're not like, hey, you shared that before. Right? They love the reminder.
No one's ever said that to me.
A lot of people are new followers. They never saw it the first time around. There are so many good reasons to reshare really good stuff that people like. So there's another little lesson. Honestly, this has been one of my favorite podcasts, just because I think there's just so much good in here. Guys, everybody go follow Ben. Ben, where they find you?
Instagram at Ben Mudge _. I still cannot get just Ben Mudge. That guy will not relinquish that handle. Do my head in. He hasn't used it in years, but anyway. Yeah. Or the Be More HQ at Be More HQ, and that's where you can find myself and Josh, our collaborative efforts, education, a bit of banter, everything's right there.
And a lot of what we talked about is really just kind of what they're going to see with you on your media. So I hope everybody goes and takes a dive into it. Go back and listen to the episode we did in the past. I can't remember what number it is, but I know if people scroll back, if you're sort of new, found me through Ben's media, check out the more recent ones. I had a really great episode with Don Saladino. I just had Dr. Nick Nabweze, who's a really cool dude. To your point about not having the quote expertise to handle certain medical stuff. One of the nicest things in the industry is to have people to refer people to, either locally, professionally, or in the broader scheme to follow their media. I got medical doctors like Dr. Nick and Dr. Spencer Nadolsky, who I'm like, guys, literally go anything to do with obesity medicine and cholesterol and all this sort of stuff. Jesus, Spencer's super brilliant with this stuff. Go check out what he's doing. And because I think a lot of time people probably come to you thinking, well, you can kind of fill in for a doctor, when in fact they actually need a medical professional.
Yeah, that's happened. That happens quite a lot. People go, oh, well, you've got CF, you're doing quite well with it. Can you fix me? And I'm like, if we could rewind time and address a lot of issues that you had from the start, then yeah, but I don't have that ability in my wheelhouse. So we'll do the best we can. But that's to add to your point. That is one of the things that really makes a coach stand out, in my opinion. My respect for a coach or someone in that, regardless of what profession they're in, when they can admit that they don't know something, holy shit, my respect for them it jumps up. It massively jumps up, because it just shows humility. It shows that, yeah, look, I don't know everything. I'm not this egotistical, I know everything you need to know. It just makes you more human. And I think that's what we really need to be doing as coaches. We need to be making ourselves as relatable as possible to the client, without doing this whole, oh, here's me rolled over and here's me this usually super lean woman being like, look, I've got fat rolls. And you're like, no, you're just bending over. Everyone's got that. But my point is, you're trying to help people by making yourself seem superhuman or anything like that. You're you're kind of missing the point. So
everybody go check out what Ben is doing. Thanks for listening. If you're brand new, stick around, subscribe, check out my other episodes. If you haven't ever done it, give me a review on iTunes or Spotify or wherever you're listening. Reach out to me if you have any questions. I am accessible. Follow me at Andrew Coates Fitness on Instagram. I actually want to connect with you there. I always respond to every message. And Ben, thanks for taking the time, brother. It has been a real pleasure.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.